crunchy fried strips of thin cut dough make wonton strips a versatile dish. Top your salads with it or just eat it as a snack. You can make it at home and I'll teach you how, so stick around. Aloha mai kako, my name is Relle and welcome to my kitchen where I like to share all my favorite Hawaiian and local recipes. And today we're making a classic dish but homemade. It's wonton wrappers, wonton pea, gyoza wrappers, dim sum wrappers, mandu wrappers. There's so many different names for it, but it's the outside dough that you fill with whatever fillings you want. But today we'll be making them into chips. Super yummy, super easy. The dough is only a couple of ingredients. You'll just need some flour, an egg, salt, and water, and some patience. I'm gonna take off my ring actually because mixing dough with a ring on probably is not the best idea. So first you're gonna go ahead and mix your wet ingredients into a bowl. And I say wet, but we're gonna put the salt in there too, but that's okay. Into a bowl, you're gonna wanna add water. You need water for dough, an egg. I'm trying to get the shell. Every time I do it on camera, for whatever reason, I always end up with shells. Like I'm trying to be good and do it right. I don't know. But okay, so egg, water, whisk, and then also the salt will go into there. Now, when you make dough, the way I see it commonly taught is to get a rather big size bowl. So you're gonna put your flour. This is all-purpose flour. You could do, the fancy flours that are made for this, but I like to just use the all-purpose, that's fine. And then once your everything else is mixed, what you're gonna do is just make a well, so like a divot into it, like this. And basically it's gonna act as a place to catch all that wet ingredients. And then you're gonna pour that egg, water, salt mixture into that well. I tend to like to leave a little bit left over after just in case, because it does take a little of playing with. It's not an exact science that if you use this much every single time it'll work. The humidity varies, and here in Hawaii it's very humid, so we have to play with it a little. And then a wooden spoon, hold on. I don't know where my regular rounded wooden spoon is. But we'll just use this one. And what you'll want to do is gradually incorporate the flour into the mix. And you can use your hand too if you want, but you'll just kind of stir it like this. And I've already knocked down the wall. You're trying not to knock down the wall. It's not the best spoon for it, but it's just to gradually incorporate some of that flour. And at this point, I already knocked it, so it's fine. We'll just mix it. Don't worry about it if you knock it down. It helps to get it evenly dispersed, but yeah. So it's still shaggy and dry, which is expected, right? Because we didn't pour everything in. Now, when you mix flour like this, gluten starts to develop. Gluten is the strands in it. So it does get tough. And I give credit, man, to the little old grandmas that bake. They are amazing because to mix dough, you gotta have some arm muscles. And those grandmas, they're amazing. They just, no questions asked. They're there pushing them out like nothing. If you find that your dough is still a little dry, you can always add a little bit more water. Err on the side of less, because you can always, add more water. Okay, look, if you add too much water, you can add more flour as well. But then it's this back and forth of like wet, dry to get you to where it needs to be in. So once you get it to kind of come together like this, you'll turn it out onto, I use a silpat like this, but you can use just the countertop. And then the trick I like to do is use cornstarch. Now, the reason we don't use you can use flour. Don't get me wrong, you can use flour, but the flour can get absorbed into it and end up drying it up. So I like to use cornstarch. So onto the silpat itself, you're gonna add a little bit of cornstarch. And even like when you buy them at the store, you see the powder on it, they put that on to help prevent it from sticking. I'll probably end up needing more, but that's okay. Scrape it off. And we'll just have to see. You'll have to play with it a little to see if it needs a little more water or a little more flour. This actually looks pretty good, so we'll see how that goes. So you'll turn the dough out onto your work surface. See how it's rough and lumpy and shaggy? Won't be for long. So you're gonna knead it. It's gonna take a good 5 to 10 minutes. You're just gonna have a workout for a day. So trick I like to do is you're gonna pull it up and use your palms and push down. And you're gonna turn and do it again. And turn like a quarter turn every time. Pull it up, push it down with your palm. And then you're gonna just knead this for about 5 to 10 minutes or until the outside of the dough is smooth. So I'll be back working my muscles and I'll show you what it looks like when it's ready, okay? All right, my arms are burning. Now, mind you, you totally can use a dough hook to do this. I bought a dough hook for my KitchenAid, but the replacement one I bought is too short, so it doesn't even touch the bottom of the bowl. Anyway, it's my workout for the day. So once the dough is more smooth like this on the top, this one is tacky. So remember I mentioned when you mix it, the gluten, so you can tell like when you push it and it kind of just pushes back into place, that's a good sign that the dough is ready. However, that makes it difficult to roll out. So what you want to do is wrap it in plastic wrap or your plastic wrap alternative of choice, totally up to you. But it dries out real quick, so you want to make sure you cover it up. And it doesn't need to go in the fridge or anything like that, but you just want to cover it and let it rest for a little bit, and it'll be a lot easier to roll out when you're done. So cover, sit, and we'll be back in a little bit. All right, it's been about 10-15 minutes. That's like the minimum amount of time that you wanna let it sit. Probably ideally like half an hour to an hour. I'll show you why when you roll it out. When the gluten is still really tough, when you roll it, it kind of like, it'll spread out and then it'll shrink back together. It's not that you can't, it's just a little more effort. It's a little tacky after it sits too, see? And that's just because everything's kind of mellowed out. So you wanna get some more cornstarch down. The soap pads are nice. It doesn't stick so much to that, but see how it peeled off really nicely over there, but that's okay. You don't want it to stick to your hand too much. All right, so this whole thing will roll out bigger than the soap pad. So we don't want that. So I'll take maybe, I'll do half of it and see. But see how it's pretty, you know, still stretchy like that? It's because it was only like 10-15 minutes. But I get impatient sometimes. If you have the time, by all means, wait. So wonton wrappers are thin, right? So you want to roll it out almost paper thin. There's a good description of it. See how it kind of pulls back together? It's still doing it. It'll work, but it's just a little more effort to roll it out. See, watch. So you see how it's coming back together? When you roll it and you push and it contracts like that, it's because the gluten strands are still pretty strong in there. The longer you let it sit, the less springy is a good word. The less springy it'll be. Maybe I'll even do half of this so I can get it to be a little bit smaller. Don't cut on your soap pad. Oh, and the other pieces over here, make sure you cover it back up because they will dry out. So while you're rolling this out, you can set some oil into a pot, a pan, and you're gonna get that up to about 350 degrees Fahrenheit, 360. That's a good frying temperature. And you're just gonna roll this out as thin as you can. If it starts sticking, add a little bit more cornstarch. So we're getting close. You can almost start to see like the light through it when it gets really thin. Not completely, but that's kind of telling you how thin it should be. If you've ever had wontons, like the pre-made ones, that's the goal we're trying to get, that paper thin consistency. All right, oops. If it folds up like that, you can just unfold it. Okay, see, I don't know if you can see it through here, but the light kind of shines through. That tells you it's pretty thin. This edge right here is still kind of thick. Just roll out that edge. All right, regular wonton wrappers are squares, but you can make like mandu pea where it's more rounded. But either way, we're gonna do strips, but I feel like if you cut them into squares first, it tends to be easier. So once you get it to the thinness that you want, then it'll go ahead and go onto a cutting board like this. And what I tend to do is just cut squares. Now, you can stop like this, cut the squares and freeze it or store it in the fridge to make wonton, which I have a recipe for. You can check out the description box below or this card up here. And it's this with a filling inside, super ono. But for this one, I just like to, you know, cut a square as best I can, but like the edges are rounded here, yeah? So it's about, I don't know, 3-4 inches. These are rectangles at this point, but this would kind of be the size of the one you want. And then all you would have to do is kind of just stack them on top of each other. Gotta make sure you cut it all the way through. And it doesn't really matter like that they're different shapes and sizes, because all we're doing is really cutting strips. And with the chips and stuff, it's irregular shapes anyway. And then just about like 1/2 inch strips like this. These are like wonton strips, so you can put them on top of salads, or here, I like to just eat them like this. So once your oil has heated up, and one way you can do it is kind of like flick cornstarch and flour into it, and if it starts to bubble up, then it's ready. Or the other thing you can do is just put like a small piece of it in and see if it starts to bubble. So it still can go a little bit more. You see how it's not like a rough bubble around, it just barely. So we'll wait a little while longer and we'll be right back to fry this up, and I'll show you what you can put as toppings on it to make it super yummy. So be right back. All right, our oil is up to 350, 360, and you can double check by taking a piece and putting it in, and you see how it starts to bubble. That tells us that it's ready. So we can go ahead and put the rest in and go ahead, and it only will take a couple of minutes and it'll puff up pretty quick. As you can see, this one already started to as well. So you're just gonna kind of drop it in, it'll rise to the top and it'll go quick. See how fast that was? And you're just gonna go until golden brown, minute, maybe 2, and then flip, let it puff up. Yeah, you can go a little bit longer. Those two are stuck together. You see how it makes like interesting shapes? Sure, you can get the plain ones like this. And sometimes it'll be hard to flip. It'll wanna just keep flipping back to the other side. So sometimes you kind of have to hold it to help it get towards the other side. But they cook up super fast. It's not something that you put in and walk away. Trust, I've done that one before. Like, I got some time to go, I don't know, run and grab something. No, don't do that. There, you see how you flip it and that one stayed. So you can get the classic like chip like this that doesn't puff up so much. And I think because it went in sideways like that, where these ones went in a little more flat, and that's why they're more puffy. But you can hold it down too to get it to cook through on the other side. Okay, so like this one would be like perfect, I think. What you wanna do is take it out of the oil and put it onto a paper towel. You'll want to season it when it's wet, so that the seasoning sticks. So always salt is a good one to start with. And even if you were gonna put something else on it, salt is also a good thing to start with. So you'll remove it from the oil, place it into the paper towel lined bowl, and then you just add a little bit of salt and you can just kind of toss it in there. Let me fry up a few more and I'll show you another topping that goes so good with this one, okay? Okay, if you really don't want to make your own, you totally can buy. It's not fun though, right? But you totally can buy your own. It comes from the grocery store in a tray like this in the fridge section, and they're pre-cut already like this. And then all you would have to do is slice strips and fry it up. If you want to be that person and make, do it the shortcut way, totally. No hard feelings. All right, I've made a couple more batches of this, so we'll take it out. So these are still warm, and when you drop these onto the ones that we already took out, the oil will drip down onto it, so it'll help the seasoning stick. But one of my favorite ways, other than just plain salt, which is good enough most of the time for me, but if you're looking for a way to really kick it up a notch and change it up a little bit, add the salt. And what I like to do is furikake. Furikake is a Japanese seasoning. It's dried seaweed, and then there's sesame seeds and some other stuff in it. You can find it in the Asian aisle in most grocery stores, and it has a little thing to help blocking the way. Oh, there. Go ahead, make a mess. I moved it has one of those little moisture absorbers. So I pushed it, it was blocking the puka, so I pushed it off to the side and then it went, whew. Anyway. And so you kind of just toss it in that. You can take out this napkin and you'll give it a little toss. But you see how the ones that are freshly came out, it sticks a whole lot better. So that's the secret, is making sure you put the seasoning on right when it comes out. And if you want more recipes like this, then check out this video here. And until next time, ahui ho!